It was a chilly autumn evening, and the golden hues of the setting sun filtered through the windows of my cozy little house. The leaves outside rustled gently in the breeze, adding a serene soundtrack to the quiet night. I had just settled into my favorite armchair, ready to indulge in a quiet night of reading. My wife and kids were away visiting her parents for the weekend, leaving me to enjoy some rare solitude. I thought it would be relaxing, but the house felt eerily quiet, each creak and groan magnified in the empty space. I glanced at the clock, 7:45 p.m., plenty of time to dive into my new thriller novel before bed. The story was gripping, and soon, I was lost in the pages. The author had a way of crafting suspense that kept me on the edge of my seat, and I found myself immersed in the unfolding drama. A loud bang startled me, jerking me back to reality. My heart raced as I listened for any further sounds. It was probably just the wind, I reassured myself, though unease settled in my stomach. Another bang, louder this time, echoed through the house. I put the book down, straining to hear. It came from the basement. My mind raced with possibilities. Was it an intruder, a loose window? Summoning my courage, I grabbed a flashlight from the kitchen drawer and headed towards the basement door. The old wooden steps creaked under my weight as I descended, each step amplifying my anxiety. The basement was dark, the flashlight casting long, eerie shadows on the walls. I swept the beam across the room, my pulse quickening with each passing second. Everything seemed in order, nothing out of place. Then, I heard it again, a soft, rhythmic thudding coming from the far corner. I inched closer, the beam of light revealing a large old trunk I had almost forgotten about. It was my grandfather's, a relic from his seafaring days, and I had never bothered to open it. The sound was coming from inside. With trembling hands I fumbled with the rusty latch, finally prying it open. The lid creaked as it lifted and I peered inside, expecting to find... what? I wasn't sure. My breath caught in my throat as I saw a small ornate box, the source of the noise. It was moving ever so slightly, pulsing as if alive. Curiosity overcoming fear, I reached in and lifted the box. As soon as my fingers touched it, the lid sprang open, revealing an old pocket watch, its hands spinning wildly. The air around me seemed to shimmer and I felt a strange sensation like being pulled through time and space. Suddenly I was no longer in my basement but standing in a dimly lit room filled with nautical equipment and maps. A tall figure turned to face me, my grandfather, looking exactly as he did in the old photos. His eyes widened in recognition and he smiled. "Grandfather." "Welcome, my boy," he said, his voice echoing strangely in the small room. "I knew you would find the way here one day." "Grandpa, how is this possible?" I stammered, trying to make sense of the impossible scene before me. "Grandfather, time is a peculiar thing," he replied, tapping the pocket watch. "This watch has been passed down for generations, a portal of sorts, connecting us across the years. But you must return now. Your family needs you." Before I could ask any more questions, a blinding light enveloped me, and I was back in my basement, the watch still in my hand, but now silent and still. The house was quiet once more, the air feeling less oppressive. I made my way back upstairs, my mind reeling from the experience. As I entered the living room, I realized the hour had grown late. The stillness of the house, now coupled with the bizarre encounter, made me feel uneasy. I decided to shake off the lingering sense of foreboding by brewing a cup of tea. The familiar routine of boiling water, steeping the tea bag, and inhaling the calming aroma helped ground me. As I sipped my tea, my thoughts drifted back to my grandfather. He had always been a figure of mystery and adventure, with countless tales of the sea that he would share during family gatherings. I remembered sitting at his knee as a child, wide-eyed, hanging on to every word as he spoke of distant lands, treacherous waters, and hidden treasures. The pocket watch had always been a part of those stories, a symbol of the time he spent exploring the world. Lost in these memories, I barely noticed the time slipping by until I glanced at the clock, 10:15 p.m. The house was still, save for the occasional creak as it settled. I decided it was time to head to bed. I secured all the doors and windows, ensuring everything was locked tight, and then made my way to the bedroom. As I lay in bed, the events of the evening played over in my mind. The logical part of me tried to rationalize what had happened. Perhaps it was just a vivid hallucination brought on by stress and loneliness. Suddenly, a loud noise jolted me awake. I sat up, heart pounding, and listened intently. It was the same rhythmic thudding from earlier, but this time it was coming from upstairs. I grabbed the flashlight from the nightstand and cautiously made my way to the source of the noise. The sound led me to the attic, a place I rarely ventured. The door was slightly ajar, and a chill ran down my spine as I pushed it open. The attic was cluttered with old furniture, dusty boxes, and forgotten memories. The beam of my flashlight cut through the darkness, revealing cobwebs and shadows. The thudding sound grew louder, more insistent. It was coming from an old chest in the corner, one I didn't recognize. I approached it cautiously, every step filled with apprehension. My hands shook as I opened the chest, revealing an assortment of old photographs, letters, and keepsakes. Among them was another pocket watch, identical to the one in the basement. As I picked it up, the thudding stopped, replaced by a soft, rhythmic ticking. A sense of calm washed over me as I realized the watches were somehow connected, bridging the gap between past and present. I took the watch back downstairs, placing it beside the first one on the mantelpiece. The two watches seemed to pulse in unison, a silent testament to the bond I shared with my grandfather. I sat back in my armchair, feeling a sense of peace and closure. The house no longer felt empty or eerie. It was filled with the presence of my ancestors, their stories and memories woven into its very fabric. As I closed my eyes, ready to finally rest, I heard a familiar voice whisper, "You're never alone, my boy." With that, I drifted into a deep, dreamless sleep, comforted by the knowledge that my grandfather was watching over me. Little did I know, the pocket watches held more secrets than I could ever imagine. Secrets that would unfold in the days to come, leading me on an adventure beyond my wildest dreams.